The fourth, we believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today.
Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
The man who stood behind this pulpit was opposed by the powerful and wealthy. He was called a communist, that he hated the police and his movement would destroy America. They attacked his personal life and distorted his policies. Sound familiar?
Yes.
It should. The hateful voices of old Georgia are back. They attacked Reverend King. Now they're attacking Reverend Warnock. It's disgusting. It's wrong. But with Mitch McConnell and Kelly Loeffler, it's no surprise. The Lincoln Project is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Yeah, I'm the least racist person there is in the world.
The people of Georgia, they are involved in another civil war. Last one did not go that well. This is just unbelievable. Election fraud mania is causing chaos in the runoff election in Georgia. And the last Republican that caused this much damage in Georgia was William Tecumseh Sherman. So they're involved in some sort of a race baiting, fear mongering, our way of life. Do you still have plantations? I don't know. I just don't think suburban, Atlanta, I don't think suburban Savannah are going to go for this. I don't. And, this is what's going on today. Today, Barack Obama is stumping with John Ossoff, joined by Stacey Abrams and others in Atlanta. And tomorrow, Donald Trump the devil is going down to Georgia looking for votes to steal. He's in a bind. He's way behind. He's willing to make a deal. The boy said, my name is Biden. And they are literally begging Donald Trump not to go all vanity project on him and start screaming how it was all fraudulent and, repeating what QAnon lady Sidney Powell and what Lynn Wood are spewing, what Michael Flynn is spewing. I mean, these people are just so bizarre. That the election was rife with fraud and you should boycott it if you're a Republican and not vote for anybody until Georgia, actually declares martial law, according to Flynn. Flynn literally wants martial law declared, and then he wants the Constitution temporarily suspended, and the military should hold an election. If the Constitution is suspended, the need to hold an election is also suspended. Do they make no sense, these people. They make absolutely no sense. And yesterday, the fear-mongering is unbelievable. And, in ordinary times, you would say, oh, just ignore them. Walk away. Don't even give it. But the threat level is high. The threats are everywhere. The threats are, the noose. The noose. This is why, I'm in the mind of old Georgia here. The noose is the new meme status. The noose has gotten status in Republican land like we haven't seen since Birth of a Nation. Do you know what I'm saying? And a lot of people in Georgia who might have shown up and voted for Loeffler or for Perdue, who are criminals. They are the Bonnie and Clyde of Republican politics at this point in time. But the noose is turning people off. The noose is like, really, and the threats are everywhere now. You have all kinds of people in, you had Gabriel Sterling, right? Gabriel Sterling, you remember him. He's a Republican who was charged with election implementation in his role working for the Georgia Secretary of State. And this week he had to give he was so angry. He was beyond words. He was almost speechless, because 20-year-old kids who took a job working for Dominion were being threatened, and hanging nooses have been sent to people, including this young voting machine technician. And that's why Gabriel Sterling was livid and saying, it's enough. It's too much. It has to stop, and it's not stopping. Now, all of a sudden, the New York Times is reporting that there are threats against people we never even heard of in our lives because they were simply doing their jobs in Wisconsin, in Pennsylvania, in Michigan, in Nevada, in Arizona, in Virginia, for God's sake, in Vermont, for Pete's sake, for the love of Jesus, and in Kentucky, and their staff too. You know, it's like unknown members of election staff are getting poisonous nooses sent, you know, via email, placed on their porches, shoved in their mailbox. It is so, and he's not going to stop. This man is not going to stop. So if he goes down to Georgia tomorrow and he just can't help himself and he starts to go off on, you know, there was massive and it was fraud and you shouldn't vote, then, you know, we get the Senate. So, but it's producing threats. It's unbelievable. It's like they're in a circular firing squad. And I'm telling you, it's Georgia. It doesn't go well for Georgia when they play this racial political crap. Philadelphia, some unknown aide to a city commissioner was bombarded with abuse after Pam Bondi, who's dirty also, she used to be our attorney general, she was bought off by Donald Trump for $25,000. Cheap. She was a cheap date. $25,000. She dropped the Trump university fraud suit. Remember that? Yeah, I just like to jog your memory. Anyway, she singled out this guy who was an aide to a Republican city commissioner at a broadcast news conference, and all of a sudden he gets, all kinds of threats. Vermont, voicemail messages on an election official's phone, threatening to put this person in front of a firing squad. A firing squad. Katie Hobbs, I told you about her yesterday. She's Arizona's Democratic Secretary of State. Her and her family got death threats. Phoenix, Adrian Fontes, who supervises elections across Maricopa County, him and his staff threatened. He said, frankly, it's just not right. It's un-American. And now you have Flynn screaming. He wants martial law. He wants martial law. He wants the Constitution suspended. And then the military should conduct an election.
Fresh off his pardon, Trump's disgraced former national security advisor is now openly encouraging the president to declare martial law and hold a new election. Can't say he ain't grateful. The tweet is here from Flynn. How do Republicans respond to this? Silence.
Yes.
The suggestion of a coup. Silence. Overthrowing democracies. Now patriotic? Oh, vaunted protectors of the flag. Be honest and know this. The only flag you've waved for the last 4 years has been white. A sign of simple surrender. And look where it got you. Sidney Powell, Trump lawyer-ish, kicked off the team, now urging Georgians ahead of the runoffs, don't vote. Protest the state's November election results. Another Trump loyalist, Lynn Wood, joining her, rallying the crowd to chant, lock up the Republican governor who certified Biden's victory there. Now what are you going to do? You see, when you stand for nothing, your party will fall when faced with anything.
I mean, this is really, it's really bizarre world out there. We have to get to January 6th. This is the message here, okay? And actually January 20th. The news is Donald Trump will not attend the inaugural. Oh, well. I mean, America is a laughing stock. Our adversaries are enjoying this greatly. Remember, Russia's entire message was democracy doesn't work, democracy can't work, democracy is a failed system of governance. And now, they're saying, look at America. Look at that. They got death everywhere. The president is absent. The Senate can't pass anything. The people are poor. They're waiting in line like we used to in Soviet Russia, right? They're waiting in line for toilet paper. They're waiting in line for COVID tests. They're waiting in line for vaccines. They're waiting in line for voting. They wait 11 hours. It doesn't work. It's broken. It's a failed system of governance. Great. Thanks, Trump.
things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
This is so beneath the office of a U.S. Senator. You've continued to demean yourself throughout this campaign with your conduct. First, you were lengthening my nose in attack ads to remind everybody that I'm Jewish. Then when that didn't work, you started calling me some kind of Islamic terrorist. And then when that didn't work, you started calling me a Chinese communist.
Oh, my God.
It's ridiculous. And you shouldn't do everything that your handlers in Washington tell you to, because you'll lose your soul along the way, Senator.
Yes.
What the people of Georgia deserve is a serious discussion of economic relief for Georgia families and how we're going to protect coverage for pre-existing conditions.
Thank you for your time.
Right.
I mean, that's the only debate clip that we will have from Jon Ossoff versus Senator David Perdue, the insider trader, because David Perdue has refused to debate Jon Ossoff again because he was eviscerated by the truth when Jon Ossoff pointed out that this is, the fear-mongering, the racist, 1910, 1920, 1930, 1940, 50, 1968 racial division that has been rejected for, across most of this country, and he will not show up for a second debate. Now, as you know, Sunday at 7 o'clock, there will be a debate between the other Senate seat in Georgia, Kelly Loeffler, who has never been elected to anything, including dog catcher. She was appointed by Brian Kemp, the guy that the Republicans now accuse of aiding and abetting Georgia voter fraud. So that's who picked Kelly Loeffler. He picked her because Johnny Isakson retired and the seat needed to be filled. And she's now running against Reverend Warnock and running ads against him, calling him a Marxist, and comparing him to, Jeremiah Wright in the 2008 infamous sermon, where he started talking about racial inequality, and they clipped it and played it as a way to depress people from voting for Barack Obama. How'd that work out for you? But yeah, this is so, it's just all this old politics, all of these throwback campaigns. Meanwhile, we're in the middle of a mass casualty event, a humanitarian crisis of epic proportions in this country. 28 million people are food insecure. People are online at food banks all across this country, in just about from New Jersey to Texas, from Vermont to Washington State. People are lining up for food. Okay? They haven't controlled this pandemic. The president has been AWOL. The only thing that he talks about is himself. The only thing that he talks about is fraud. The only thing he whines about. And, as he was whining, we were swearing in a Democratic senator from Arizona.
It is important to know the problems with mail-in balloting.
Oh, my God.
Pennsylvania, Michigan, Nevada, Georgia, Arizona.
Do you solemnly swear that you will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic?
In Arizona, in-person voters whose ballots produced error messages from tabulation machines.
That you take this obligation freely, without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion.
Also in Arizona, the Attorney General announced that mail-in ballots had been stolen from mailboxes and hidden under a rock.
Well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office upon which you are about to enter. So help you God?
I do.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Senator Kelly. Congratulations, Senator Mark Kelly. Good for you.
Oh!
Kristen Sinema standing right there. Two Democratic senators from Arizona, John McCain's state. Okay? So keep whining, keep complaining, just keep the threat level down in this country because, frankly, it's unacceptable. The kind of swill that people are imbibing, the kind of crap that people are sucking through a straw because Donald Trump is feeding it to them is causing them to act out. It's literally dangerous. They're off the rails again. You know, martial law and the threat level for Republicans, for Kemp, for Raffensperger, for Gabriel Sterling, for people who just volunteered to count ballots. I mean, we should be grateful that they count ballots. We should be thanking them for showing up to challenge ballots, to count ballots, to process ballots, but instead we threaten them. We don't. They do. I mean, this country has got to come together. It just absolutely has got to come together. And the more that you see, the more that you read, now we're finding out that Donald Trump literally sent a spy into the Department of Justice. I swear to God, this woman, her name, she should have been an OBGYN. Her name is Heidi Stirrup. Heidi Stirrup. One can only hope that she's an old lady with shaky hands. Do you know what I mean? Because that's kind of OBGYN I'm looking for at this point. But no, that's her name, Heidi Stirrup. And she's a friend of Stephen the racist Miller, Stephen the self-loathing Jew Miller. He assigned her to be Donald Trump's eyes and ears at the Justice Department and shake down people that work in the Justice Department demanding information about any investigations on election fraud matters. Give me the info. I need to bring it to the White. They banned her from the Department of Justice, and they asked her to please vacate the building after top officials at the Justice Department learned of her intimidation and her efforts to collect insider information about ongoing cases and the department's work on election fraud. And you know why she was put there? Because Donald Trump didn't think Bill Barr would break the law for him.
This is probably the most fraudulent election that anyone's ever seen.
Do you still have confidence in Bill Barr?
Ask me that in a number of weeks from now. They should be looking at all of this fraud. This is not civil. He thought it was civil. This is not civil. This is criminal stuff. This is very bad criminal stuff. So I just say this. We went through an election. At 10 o'clock, everybody said that was an easy victory for Trump.
No one said
All
that.
of a sudden, the votes started disappearing, miraculously disappearing.
That happened.
We found much of it, but we found far more votes than we need.
Okay, he's so full of crap. I mean, he would need 8 million votes. He doesn't have any votes. I mean, there's nothing. The Wisconsin Supreme Court declined to hear his case yesterday. Pennsylvania Supreme Court said there's no there. Every judge that's heard, there have been 35 cases. Every one of them, the judge said, where is the evidence? Show me the evidence. Produce some evidence. You can't just allege things. You have to show proof that they happened. Do you have any other affidavits from people who said that they saw what you saw? No. The other affidavits don't square with what this one is saying. And this one has a post-it where somebody told them something, and it's ridiculous what they're doing. Rudy Giuliani is a ridiculous person. He needs a pardon because of the dirt that he went digging for in Ukraine, illegally. I mean, all of these people are dirty.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
So I see we're at the plant a spy in your own Justice Department so she can steal info for phony election fraud claims stage of the coup now. While we're still at the martial law stage of the coup. The pardoned convicted General Michael Flynn's stage of the coup, in which he sends out tweets calling for martial law and for suspending the Constitution. And the Trump attorney Lynn Wood stage of the coup, where he calls for martial law and for preparations for civil war. And the Rudy Giuliani continuing part of the coup, his nationwide fraud tour, now joined by that woman who is either drunk Karen from Kalamazoo or the next Mrs. Rudy Giuliani. We're also at that stage of the coup in which Republicans like Senator Ron Johnson of Wisconsin are insisting that they are all going along with all of this simply because no Republican could overlook Trump's vote total, that somehow we have to accommodate the 74 million Trump voters. And the answer to the question, how do you accommodate these people, is them. To merely have voted for or to support Trump is merely to be a racist or a fascist, or to be neither but to be comfortable with either.
Right.
To support recounts in close states is wasteful and arrogant, but it is not unpardonable. But to support Trump's attempt to spark a coup to overturn the duly elected government of the United States is not something we need to accommodate. It is against the law. If we are asked how we accommodate people like Lynn Wood and Sidney Powell and Rudy Giuliani and their stooges and their fellow travelers, the correct answer is indict them and arrest them. Gee, a dictatorship would be good, or let's prepare for civil war because our presidential candidate lost, or Trump should invoke martial law and start shooting all the Democrats is not an opposing political point of view. It is a crime. It is an attempt to end American democracy. It is not to be accommodated. It is to be resisted and defeated, and those behind it are to be punished as the law provides.
Thank you, Keith Olbermann. I missed you. I mean, I've been a fan for a long time, but I can't watch you read Thurber. I just can't. I can't do it. I can't. Your dogs are cute, though, and you have a great view of Manhattan. That's what he does. He tweets himself reading James Thurber because that's what his dad loved. But this was worthy. This was worthy. I mean, what they are advocating for is seditious. What they are advocating for is an act of sedition. They are asking people to overthrow our government, to declare martial law, to have the military run an election after they suspend the Constitution. This is bizarre. Rudy Giuliani is introducing witnesses who are drunk or racist and he's not under oath. Rudy Giuliani will not swear that what he is doing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. It's very sick. It's very twisted. It's very ugly, and it's got to stop. I mean, this girl, the one that she was the best thing on the internet, I got to say. I mean, just a bizarro world, okay? Melissa, she was like, I mean, they brought like my cousin Vinny to life. Mona Lisa Vito is who she, was trying to be, except she didn't know about posi traction. She didn't know anything about mechanics. She didn't even understand the election that she was criticizing. It was bizarre. It was ugly. And she wasn't the only weirdo that they have been presenting to Republicans as quote unquote witnesses who have written affidavits. Very, very strange, okay? This whole thing.
The poll book is completely off. Completely off.
Off by 30,000?
I'd say that poll book is off by over 100,000.
What?
That poll book? Why don't you look at the registered voters on there? How many registered voters are on there? Do you even know the answer to that?
No, I guess I'm trying to get to the bottom of this here.
Zero. There's zero.
So, my question then is if the
guess how many? Wait, what about the turnout rate? 120%.
Let's let Representative Johnson ask his question, please.
So the poll book number. There's two things that could happen here. Either the poll book number, if ballots were counted multiple times, there's two options. Option number one is that the poll book numbers are not going to match.
They don't.
The actual. Not by thousands and thousands of votes. That's not what we see right now.
Take a look again. Take a look again.
Option number two is that they essentially were filling in names of people who didn't vote.
Dead people too?
So is that?
Let's
I guess,
let
is that
Representative Johnson ask his question, and then when he's done.
I thought that was his answer. Okay.
Well, I guess that's my question here is why we're not seeing the poll book off by 30,000 votes. That's not the case.
What did you guys do? Take it and do something crazy to it?
I'm just saying the numbers are not off by 30,000 votes. So
I know what I
saw. Saying that they're filling in?
I know what I saw, and I signed something saying that if I'm wrong, I can go to prison. Okay. Did you?
Okay,
I'm just trying to ask you a legitimate question here.
Yeah, let's let Representative Johnson ask his question, and then don't interrupt him. And then, if you want to respond to it, that's fine. And did you have more, Representative?
Yeah, I guess I just want to keep following back up with the poll book. So, are we saying that the poll book is either wildly off, or that they are filling in names?
It's wildly off, and dead people voted, and illegals voted.
Okay, so this woman, she pled guilty to, well, she was charged with first-degree obscenity in Michigan by computer, which tells me something about under 13 kind of child porn. And she entered into a plea deal, okay, with the Wayne County prosecutor, that's Detroit, and instead pled guilty only to what do you call it when you are grossly misbehaved. And she's been on probation for 12 months. She's been on probation for 12 months. She is the mother of a 4-month-old daughter with her fiancé and a 3-year-old son from a former boyfriend. She once worked for the Ford IT department as an intern, and she was fired by them. And then she went to like Manpower. You know, she went to like an employment agency, and that's how she got the job as a Dominion IT staffer. Okay, that's how she got that job. That's who she is.
Going back to the ruling from Judge Kenny, Timothy Kenny, he writes that your description of the events at the TCF Center does not square with any other affidavits. Yeah. He says that there are... excuse me, I'm speaking.
Please,
Thank you.
Let's let the representative finish, and then you can
He writes that there are no other reports of lost data or tabulating machines that jammed repeatedly every hour during the count.
Right.
He also writes that neither Republican nor Democratic challengers nor city officials substantiate your version of these events.
I mean, this is recycled trash, and this is what Rudy is presenting. I mean, it's been kicked out of court by judges before because there is no evidence that these machines jammed. There is no evidence that ballots were brought in. There is no evidence that the poll books were off by 30,000. There's no evidence of any fraud at all. This woman is wackadoodle.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
Going back to the ruling from Judge Kenny, Timothy Kenny, he writes that your description of the events at the TCF Center does not square with any other affidavits. Yeah. He says that there are... excuse me, I'm speaking.
Please,
Thank you.
Let's let the representative finish, and then you can
He writes that there are no other reports of lost data or tabulating machines that jammed repeatedly every hour during the count. He also writes that neither Republican nor Democratic challengers nor city officials substantiate your version of these events. The allegations simply are not credible, is what Judge Kenny writes. So my question for you is, you're making claims here today that there's systematic fraud in what's going on in our elections. Are the courts also tied up in that fraud?
Let me tell you what I did by accident, okay? I gave Channel 7 an interview that they tied in to that and made me the witness that's uncredible. Guess what? There's going to be a couple behind me that are going to say the same thing I just said. And
the witness before you was also proven not credible as well by the same judge.
Oh, no, she wasn't, because she wasn't even there.
Representative Camilleri, let's let her finish, please.
Talked the very first time.
So I just want to understand, I don't know what exactly all the things that are being talked about there are, but can you tell us what you said today is the truth? Is that correct?
Sir, I wrote a written affidavit. Yes, it is 100% true.
Okay, and did other people observe this?
Absolutely. And behind me, you're going to hear a couple.
Okay, and we'll hear from them.
And let me just state this. I was an IT worker on the stage. I was working with Dominion. I had no poll workers were not allowed on the stage. The data loss, nobody would have heard about that besides me, Samuel, and Nick. Okay? Just like nobody knows that Samuel went to the Chicago warehouse besides me because I worked for Dominion.
Oh, geez. Oh, my God. All right. So she literally pleaded guilty to disorderly conduct. That was a plea deal struck when she was charged with first-degree obscenity by computer. And apparently she was an intern at Ford in their IT department, got fired from being an intern. How do you even do that? And then went to a employment agency, and Dominion hired her to do low-level IT work, but she understands everything that... I mean, this is just so unbelievable, okay? This is... here's another Rudy witness. This is a woman. She's an Indian American, obviously, and she says that people think that all Indians look alike. The real issue, though, is Chinese people.
Like, a lot of people think all Indians look alike. I think all Chinese look alike. So how would you tell? If some Chow shows up, you can be anybody and you can vote. And if somebody with my name, you can't even tell my name. Anybody can vote.
This was another Rudy star witness. And then Rudy made the following statement.
Read the history of Dominion, and you'll get an idea of what a crooked company it is, which maybe is the reason they don't want to show up here.
It's not.
They really don't want to tell you that the two of them that own it are Venezuelans, and they brought the two Smartmatic owners. They brought the two guys who are Canadians down to meet Chavez just 2 years ago.
Okay, Hugo Chavez has been dead since 2013. 2 years ago would have been 2018. And Rudy is alleging that Dominion, which is a Canadian company that is headquartered in Denver, is Venezuelan, and that the Venezuelan people went to get communist Chinese software from Hugo Chavez in Venezuela 2 years ago, when Hugo Chavez would have been dead for 5 years. I mean, this is really twisted, okay? And so it prompted one of the Michigan lawmakers to ask Rudy, is this any indication of why you need a pardon?
And why should we not believe the reported attempts of you to try to seek a pardon from the president?
What was the last part?
That last part is not relevant.
You're attempting to seek a pardon, so why is this not part of that?
I will ask that he be disciplined for that. First of all,
hold on.
First of all, what he says is untrue. Second, that is a defamation of my professional character. Do you allow that? Do you allow that to happen in your legislature?
No. As I said,
reported.
As I said, Representative, let's keep it limited to the germane issue here.
Rudy needs a pardon. We all know Rudy needs a pardon. And you would think that Rudy would have some shame after this ridiculous thing that he did at Total Landscaping, and shrubbery across from the crematorium next door to the porn bookstore. But these witnesses that he's bringing forward and these allegations that he's making, Rudy refused to be sworn in when he presented this crap to the Michigan Oversight Committee. He refused to be sworn in, and now you know why. He intends to lie. Michael Flynn intends to lie. Lynn Wood intends to lie. And Sidney Powell intends to lie. They keep recycling these crazy people's affidavits, which have been debunked by every court that has seen them. And they have introduced these same people in courts across America, all to bamboozle the American people, all to, give some sort of succor to Trump supporters who just can't accept that their man lost. They are willing to upend democracy. They are willing to trash America as a third world country that cannot have an election. Even Mitt Romney has had enough of it, okay? Even Mitt Romney yesterday was saying, our enemies are watching this crap, and they're having a field day with this. This is damaging to the United States of America. We are lacking leadership on everything from COVID to this stimulus to this denigration of democracy. It's bad.
Damage is President Trump doing to our country, to our standing around the world, by refusing to concede and alleging widespread fraud going on all over the country?
Well, the Attorney General has said there's no there. The courts have all looked at the evidence and said there's no evidence there.
Right.
Now, of course, there are going to be circumstances where 1 or 2 or a handful or maybe even 100 ballots were incorrectly sent in or counted, and those things get adjusted and get fixed. But the idea of widespread fraud has simply not been shown to us. And if that evidence does exist, please show it to us.
Yes.
But at this stage, we don't see it. And so for the president or anyone else to go out and allege widespread fraud and say the election is rigged and the election was stolen, that obviously strikes at the very foundation of democracy here and around the world, for that matter. People watch America. If we can't have a free and fair election, how can they have it in other nations of the world?
Yeah.
So this is critical for the whole cause of democracy. Russia and China have to be just laughing, smiling from ear to ear. This is critical for the preservation of the very democracy and freedom that's important for our country and for others.
Okay, there's about a million things that Mitt Romney would stand for, that Mitt Romney would say, that I would call him out for because he's not telling you the whole truth. Like Mitt Romney says, I don't like to borrow money. He is the leveraged buyout king, okay? I worked for a company that Mitt Romney came in, took all the cash out of, and then replaced it with debt. So there's a million things I would disagree with him on. Not this. Not this. China, Russia, backward, Saudi Arabia, people that don't have elections, people with monarchies, people that North Korea, they're all having a field day with their people, telling their people democracy is a failed system of governance. Don't have pro-democracy movements in this country. We'll put them down. Donald Trump is trying to put them down because democracy is a failed system of governing. It doesn't work. Look at the people of the United States. They're split right down the butt crack. They're dying in record numbers. Their government has failed them. They're standing in line for toilet paper. They're standing in line for food. The president of the United States is facing, being taken out by a corrupt system. I mean, it's so dangerous. It's so wrong. It's so heinous. It's so ugly. And the white men that are doing this to our country, they need to meet the bar of justice. Anybody in this audience who believes that America is a country of laws and not a country of men have got to reject this. This is being injected into the bloodstream of too many Americans, and it's getting really dangerous. End it now. Just end it now. No more of this.
Mary had a little lamb. The fault.
We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America. From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe it.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
The United States remains in the grip of a devastating second wave. One person now dying every 30 seconds.
More than 2,800 Americans were reported dead on Wednesday alone,
making it the deadliest day for Americans since the start of the outbreak.
Those figures only expected to grow, with 100,000 people currently in hospital. That's double the peak from the first wave.
And the overall case count is exploding. More than 200,000 new coronavirus infections reported yesterday.
the void in leadership from the White House during this, it's just staggering. Now, former presidents of both parties are stepping up to fill that leadership void.
Presidents Barack Obama, George W. Bush, and Bill Clinton are all signaling they are open to publicly taking the forthcoming COVID vaccine.
Former President Obama told SiriusXM,
I may end up taking it on TV or having it filmed just so that people know. I trust this science.
This comes as we learn new details about vaccine distribution plans.
Once the FDA grants emergency use authorization, federal officials expect 40 million doses to be available by the end of December, with between 5 and 10 million doses becoming available each week for the first few months as vaccine makers ramp up production.
The chief of Operation Warp Speed says as many as 100 million Americans could be vaccinated by February.
Which is really more or less the size
of the significant at-risk population.
But it will be months before most people get a shot, and America is already in crisis.
Unbelievable. Lack of leadership. Now, remember, we have a president who literally told us COVID was a hoax. He said it was also a fraud. And he is such a demagogue. He's such a marketer, a brander of bullcrap. It's unbelievable. His whole life has been branding his bullcrap, and now he's branding our bullcrap. And telling you that things that are true are false and things that are false are true. And people are literally, they could see people counting ballots if they watched live streams of any state that they wanted to. But now Trump can convince people that what they saw, they didn't see. They didn't see that. So we're in a situation where the president of the United States is screaming that there was massive fraud in an election, something there is no evidence for, and his followers are screaming that COVID is a hoax, even though there's almost 300,000 people dead. It's amazing the damage that's been done. It's just amazing. The economy is tanking again, just like the end of the Bush administration. We had the whole Bush administration. People were like, well, he's okay on the economy. So I don't. And then all of a sudden, found out that the deregulation is what did it to us, right? They deregulated, banking, and the banksters were able to steal, and they were able to cheat, and they were able to, take good mortgages and bad mortgages and slice them up like, I always said it was like making coleslaw, right? Where you take the red cabbage and the green cabbage, and maybe the red cabbage has E. coli and the green cabbage doesn't. Well, the red cabbage were the bad liar loan mortgages and the green cabbage was the good mortgages, but they were allowed to shred them all together in one giant bowl and give everybody E. coli. I mean, this is what deregulation does. So it's just an amazing situation we find ourselves in. And now the economy is trashed again. People are, we have 28 million people that don't have enough food in the richest nation in the world. The most advanced nation in the world can't have an election. We can't pull it off. We can't do it. It's amazing. So here's my question. Who won the trade war? Where's this health care bill? Where? Because he said it would be cheap. Where's the infrastructure? Where's that? Every week was infrastructure week. Man is a con man. He inherited a functioning, well-regulated economy. He redistributed the wealth to the very tippy top and walked away. Chris in New York.
Okay.
May I help you?
Yeah.
How may I direct your call?
Hello?
Hi there.
Oh. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Good. I'm sorry, I've been on hold for so long. I didn't know if I was ever going to get on.
It's a talk show.
Pardon me?
It's a talk show. I talk.
No, I understand. I understand that. I just thought, I was listening to your station. I listen to it almost every day, and I think some things you're right. Some things I don't agree with. Donald Trump does have a flawed personality. He's done some things. In New York State. I mean, I grew up in New York City, so I know some of the contractors he's burned and all that stuff.
Yeah, me too.
Right, and I also know, I'm not I'm more for freedom of choice. I'm not a pro-lifer, some of the things he says. So some of the things he represents, I'm not representing. But
what do you like about him? Because I could feel it.
No, I'm just. One thing is, I think that he's being blamed for the coronavirus unjustifiably.
Really?
I mean, I think yes. He left it up to each governor of every state to manage the coronavirus. The way they felt fit. He has no real federal power to mandate anything in every state. So what happened was each governor did something different. Governor in Florida did something different than the governor of New York and governor of New Jersey. So every governor mandated how they wanted to handle the coronavirus differently, and in the end, they all failed. People crossing the borders all the time and all that stuff. They ended up all failing. The only thing that the president really could do, the only power he has, was shut the borders, which I totally agreed with. But I don't know why he was put down for doing that by Biden.
He wasn't. He lied about that. Nobody put him down for doing that. Nobody. That was just one of his
in Operation Warp Speed. I mean, look, he got a drug.
I got to tell you, Pfizer invented this vaccine that is being tomorrow. England, UK, they will start vaccinating their people. Pfizer was not part of Warp Speed. Pfizer is a German company, and they created this mRNA vaccine. They're not part of Warp Speed at all.
Yeah, but BioNTech was. They were given a $2 billion order.
Yeah, an
when
order.
they do complete the vaccine.
Right, they were given an order, but they were part of Operation Warp Speed. So, and let's not forget this part, okay? This is the part that really irks me. When New York was really, really in the throes of it, and it happened there first because he didn't ban travel, okay? You had 44,000 people come in from China after his travel ban, number one. Number two, the strain that you guys had in my hometown, I'm a New Yorker too, was from Europe, and he didn't shut down European travel. All right, so that happened. And while that was happening, he literally set one governor upon another and made them go into a bidding war for PPE, for personal protection equipment. And Jared Kushner got on the stage and said, that stockpile that we have, that belongs to the feds. That's not for the states. The states have to go duke it out with each other. Never did anything on testing, nothing. Okay, did nothing at all, and lied about what he knew, and is captured on tape by Bob Woodward, where he's telling Bob, you have no idea. This thing is airborne.
Let's step back for 1 second. You said lied about what he knew.
Yes.
Okay. You really think that it was appropriate for him to panic the American public and say run for your lives, or was it more appropriate for him to say, "Hey, calm down"?
You're a New Yorker, Chris. You're a New Yorker. We don't panic. Most people in this country don't panic. Okay, we rise. The only thing we ever panic over.
They would if the president panicked.
The only. So his.
I don't agree. I agree with the way he handled it.
His only choice was to go, "We're all gonna die." Or to actually step in and say, we're going to roll out a lot of test kits now. Everybody needs to be tested. While you're waiting for your results, you need to isolate.
There weren't enough test kits.
Yeah, why?
We weren't prepared for it, thanks to Obama.
The World Health Organization offered us as many test kits as we could use, and Donald Trump said no, because tests cause cases.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
This thing is a killer if it gets you. If you're the wrong person, you don't have a chance.
Yes, exactly. This is a monster. This is a scourge. And
it is the plague.
And Anderson, that's just the beginning. I know tomorrow night you're going to have Bob Woodward on live with you for the whole hour. There will be more of that tape. And you're going to hear much more of Trump in his own words behind the scenes.
In his own words behind the scenes. Chris, I just have to say to you, Obama could not have had a test for a novel coronavirus. That's ridiculous. I heard that at the very end. We were up against the break and I had to let you go, but there is no way that you could have a test for COVID-19. It's a novel, meaning a brand new coronavirus. Now, you know the common cold is a coronavirus. You know there's certain flus that are coronavirus. There is no way. But the World Health, when our tests failed, and that's what happened, our tests failed. When our tests failed, the World Health Organization stepped in, and the World Health Organization said, we have tests. Donald Trump didn't want the tests because he understood that tests would produce cases. And he was very busy telling you that it was a hoax. He was very busy telling you that it wasn't even real. And then he spent months promoting hydroxychloroquine. Take it. And then he said UV lights. Then he said disinfectant. Okay, and he kept on denying. You had Larry Hogan, a Republican governor, who had to use connections that he has through his wife, who happens to be of South Korean descent, and she had relationships with South Korea's politicians and was able to get to the president of South Korea and ask them to please help and send tests, and they did. You had Governor Whitmer in Michigan requesting PPE, ordering it on her own because the federal government said the stockpiles they had were for them, wasn't for the states. It was very scary. It was very sick and twisted. And she had placed an order, and the order came, and Donald Trump had the U.S. Marshals go and steal it from her. Oh, please, give me a break. It wasn't to keep us from panicking. We don't panic. We're Americans. We have been attacked physically. We have had, we've been bombed in Pearl Harbor. We had planes fly into our own city in New York on September 11th. We lost 3,000 people that day. Nobody panicked, okay? People had traumatic stress disorder because they were seeing people jumping out of buildings, and it was stressful and traumatic and just a nightmare. But now we have almost 300,000 dead. We lose 3,000 a day. And you're going to defend it? I mean, think about if I would have defended Osama bin Laden. I mean, that's just crazy. That makes no sense at all. No sense at all. Now he goes out and he has super spreader events, okay? He goes out and he still doesn't want testing. He still says testing is the reason why we have so many cases. But now you can see the deaths that resulted. First you get tested, then you get treated, then if you don't respond, you get hospitalized, and then you die. And we can see that that happened, and that's going to happen to another 250,000 people while we wait for a vaccine. And the vaccine, we don't know if the vaccine actually prevents transmission, and we don't know how long the immunity is. I heard anywhere from 119 days, okay, which is what, 4 months, 3 months? 4 months. I'm so sorry. Chris, you're a New Yorker, you're a brother. But honestly, I got to say, this man totally didn't want the stock market to panic. That's when he was talking about panic. He was talking about the stock market. He thinks in his warped mind that the stock market is the economy. GDP is the economy, okay? GDP, gross domestic product. And if we don't get a stimulus package out of these Republicans in the freaking Senate, we're going to see GDP shrink by $1 trillion in the next year. $1 trillion in the next year. And in the following year, in 2022, it'll shrink again by another $500 billion. Look, these Republicans, you gotta wake up and realize that they're not in it for you. They never were in it for you. They're in it for themselves. They do insider trading. They make money off it. How did Mitch McConnell become so freaking rich? Give me a break. This man is an impediment to Americans, to our recovery, to our health, to our safety, to our understanding of democracy, to our understanding of the law. I'm so sorry. I'm just so sorry. But, you know, I'm on one side. Ours. America's. I care about us. I care about America. I care about law. I care about people following the law. I care about accountability when they don't. Otherwise, we don't have a democracy. That's what I care about. Now, you cannot have a president who is a congenital liar. You cannot have a president who alleges fraud when he loses, okay? And even preemptively. He did it in 2016, too. You know, the whole thing's rigged. It's all rigged. Rigged. I got mashups of him saying rigged in 2016 thousands of times, literally. And then when he won, no problem. Now he lost, problem. You got his henchmen, his dirty... How Rudy is not disbarred, I have no earthly idea, but that's got to happen. People have got to be held accountable for dividing us down the crack like this in the middle of a mass casualty event, a humanitarian crisis of epic proportions. And yes, it's because he failed to act. It did not have to be this way. Tests could have gone out the door. Everybody could have been told no super spreader events. He could have called the governors together. He could have done lots of stuff on interstate commerce, for Pete's sake. Interstate commerce, you know what that is? That is a federal law, okay? It's constitutionally permitted to regulate interstate commerce. And you know what? You know how I learned about interstate commerce? Because it's really quite confusing. So let's make it nice and simple. Put this pen, okay? This flare. Bottle of ketchup. I don't care. Whatever you want. The plastic is made somewhere, and the ink is made somewhere, and the putting together is made. Ketchup is easier. Tomatoes are grown somewhere, then the tomatoes are processed somewhere, then the tomatoes are put into a bottle, and the bottle is made somewhere, and the label is made somewhere else, and then it's put in a cardboard box that's made at some other paper factory, and then it's put on a truck, and it's shipped over state lines. That's interstate commerce. See, if this president wanted to do something about COVID, he certainly could have. This idea that you just throw up your hands and you go, oh, there's nothing he could have done under federal law. Bullcrap. That you're buying it in the face of all of this suffering and misery and pain and loss? For a New Yorker, that's kind of stunning.
Call in, connect. Speak to Randi. Call 561-270-3844.
561-270-3844. The CDC director says the next 3 months will be, in his words, the most difficult time in the public health history of this nation. So here's the question, Senator. Where is the president's leadership? He's obsessed with everything else, not with this.
Well, this hasn't been the focus of his rhetoric, apparently, and I think it's a great human tragedy, without question. The extraordinary loss of life is heartbreaking, and in some respects unnecessary. Not in all respects, but we've relaxed our standards as individuals. Some states haven't had mask mandates, and from Washington, we have not had a consistent plan and plea for people to wear masks, to social distance, to take all the measures that would reduce the spread of this disease. It's unfortunate that this became a political issue.
Yeah.
It's not political. This is public health.
Right.
And unfortunately, we have not made that message clear enough to the American people, and people are dying because of it.
Yeah, the country's never been in worse shape since this pandemic erupted in January and February, early March. But there are still, as you well know, Senator, Republican governors are resisting basic health and safety measures as you just described them. Your state of Utah only enacted a mask mandate last month after hospitals became overwhelmed. Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida says people in Florida, he actually says this, are happier without safety measures. Is this type of attitude costing thousands and thousands of American lives?
Well, no question that unless you take this very, very seriously and communicate that this is not a political matter, this is not a matter of liberty, this is a matter of safety and public health. And we have people who are very, very sick, many people in the hospital. We have people who have died and are dying. It's unacceptable. We needed to have a far clearer message from the very beginning that this was serious, that we should take every step we possibly could in order to constrain this virus's spread. And we haven't done that, and we're suffering the consequences even today.
Yes, and that's because of lack of leadership, as he said at the beginning. It's because of lack of presidential leadership. It's because of the politicization of mask wearing. It's because of lunatic, fringy people like Kristi Noem. It's because of Utah not doing mask mandates. It's because of all these states refusing to tell their people because the president told their Republican governors that COVID was to be billed to the people as a hoax, because he didn't want a hit on the economy. He just wasn't willing to do it. And now look at it. Look at it. It's a humanitarian crisis with a massive hit on the economy. Because it had to be. The people who had some brain in their head about economics or about health or about public safety or about humanitarian crises told him, until and unless you get COVID under control, the economy cannot function. It can't. It won't. It couldn't possibly. People are, A, too afraid to go to indoor dining. People that are going to indoor dining or bars, for God's sake, are going to spread it to people who are doing everything right. You need some unified message. And we never got one. And now we have a humanitarian crisis. We have states that are broke. We have 28 million people who are broke, have no food, can't pay their heating bills in the middle of December, right ahead of Christmas. And you've got the 10 million people that are still collecting, able to collect some unemployment benefit, about to lose it the day after Christmas. The day after Christmas. Lack of leadership. You know, interstate commerce is totally regulated by Congress. And if Donald, he had everything he needed to create some sort of a unified national response. He didn't want it. He didn't want to recognize that it was real. He didn't want tests because he didn't want the numbers to go up. He didn't want people to know that they had COVID. He said it would magically go away. How many times did he tell you it would go away? He said Easter, we would all be together in church and everybody would. Easter, that was April. It's December. And the numbers are off the rails. Sorry, can't defend his response to this. I Chris, you got on my nerves. You know why? Because you're a New Yorker, and I always thought we knew better. I always thought we understood that when we're attacked by either a superstorm or a foreign adversary or a biological humanitarian crisis, a natural disaster in another form, that we would all rally around each other. I really believe that because that's what I lived through. But this man has been so able to bamboozle so many Americans to their utter death, really, that they have decided that they would die for him. That is fringy and dangerous. Diane in California.
Hey, Randy. I have two words: stimulus package.
I call it humanitarian relief.
I'm in California and I'm in Santa Monica, and it's just crazy. I mean, all these restaurants just take out. You walk down. I live by the promenade. It's desolate. And we're a big tourist town, and
I know, not here, because we have Governor Ron Death Sentence, who refuses to do anything at all to, ameliorate COVID. Nothing. I mean, and when it's time, the plan for the vaccine is only, they only have stage 1A, where they're very sure that the CDC is going to, the CDC has recommended, it doesn't mean that anybody's got to follow this, that frontline healthcare workers and senior living, I guess, get the vaccine. After that, there's no plan at all about who goes next or what. But what's really disgusting is without this stimulus, there's no money for the states to distribute the vaccine, which, just like Chris said, well, there's really not much that the federal government can do. So they're going to drop ship a certain number of vaccines to states, and then states are going to have to figure out how to administer it. And it costs money. It costs money to do it.
Of course it does. And people don't know. People don't recognize the effect that it has on the economy, not just, food
I think they do.
Of course.
I think they do, but I don't think they connect it as COVID is causing the economy to suffer. They think the economy is suffering, so F COVID. That's where the thinking gets garbled, right? But I just want everybody to remember that it was Donald Trump who went down to Puerto Rico after their natural disaster, Hurricane Maria, and threw paper towels at them. Well, that's what he's doing to us now. He's throwing paper towels at us.
Exactly. It's just a tragedy.
It is a tragedy. It's a humanitarian crisis. It truly is. And we need humanitarian relief. The states are broke. The states are absolutely broke. So how are they going to be able to administer these vaccines whenever we get them? You know, every state's going to get a whole lot less than they need to begin with, right? And they're all going to have to figure out who goes first. But how do they do it with no money to do it?
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
We're in a crisis. We need to come together as a nation. We need the Congress to act and act now. If Congress and President Trump fail to act by the end of December, 12 million Americans will lose their unemployment benefits they rely on. Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
The unemployment benefits allowing them to keep food on the table, to keep the lights on and the heat on, pay their bills. Emergency paid leave will end. The moratorium on evictions will expire. States will lose the vital tools they need to pay for COVID testing and public health. Put yourselves in that position, anybody listening. Laying awake at night wondering what's going to happen tomorrow. It's going to be harder for states to keep children and educators safe in schools, to try to provide assistance to keep small businesses alive. States and cities are already facing large budget shortfalls this year.
Yeah.
Again, through no fault of their own. They've already laid off more than 1 million workers, even more teachers, firefighters, cops will lose their jobs unless federal government steps up now. And all of this weakens our ability to control the virus if we don't step up now.
So that's leadership. Are you panicking? He says we're in a crisis. You panicked? No. People don't panic. They want leadership. They want to know what to do. They want to see their states funded. They want to see their states be able to not defund the police, which is what is happening because states are broke, both red and blue. They are broke. Whatever fiscal problems they had before the pandemic have gotten worse. Lower tax revenue because of Donald Trump's redistribution of wealth and higher demand for public services at the exact same time. That is a recipe for disaster. And so you're seeing 1 million public sector workers be laid off, and you're going to see millions more. You want to see the police defunded? Follow the Republicans right down that road. Because defunding the states is defunding the police. Defunding the cities is defunding the police. And for that matter, firefighters and teachers and emergency medical techs and public servants like the people who sweep the street. You want to add cholera to COVID? Lay off the sanitation workers. I mean, this is so bizarre. And the president of the United States currently is throwing paper towels at you. And for those of you who are okay with it because they were brown people in a commonwealth, not really recognized as being oh so American, just know that because you didn't do anything then, he's now doing it to you, and there's no one to speak out for you. If you don't speak out, when he throws paper towels at this group, then he throws paper towels at that group, and then that group, and then there's no one left. No one left. We are in a humanitarian crisis, and we need to limit the damage, both human damage, economic damage, damages to small business, deteriorating skills of workers, children falling behind in school, the whole shebang, all because he failed to lead.
As we battle COVID-19, we have to make sure that businesses and workers have the tools, the resources, and the guidance and the health and safety standards to keep businesses and schools open safely. It can be done. Because here's the deal. The fight against COVID won't be won by January alone. to truly end this crisis, Congress is going to need to fund more testing, as well as a more equitable and free distribution of the vaccine. We're going to need more economic relief to bridge through 2021 until this pandemic and economic crisis are over. And then we need to build back better.
And I have to tell you, we're the outlier in the world. Other countries, they have, they flatten their curve, and then there's a spike, and they close down again, but they pay their people. They pay their people to stay home. They pay their people family leave money, or they pay their people unemployment benefits. We don't do that here. We don't do that. And this is what you get when there's no leadership. And this is what you get when the states are allowed to go broke. And this is what you get when you have a president who is obsessed with himself and nothing else, who lies and lies and lies some more, who will tell Bob Woodward, oh, it's a killer, Bob. It really this gets the wrong part there. I always wanted to downplay. I didn't want test cause cases. And people were repeating that to me, and that was really twisted. Ginger in California.
Hey, Randy. Love you long time.
Me too, you.
Yeah, I work for the VA. Might as well just say it out there.
Yeah.
Hey, chat room. Yeah, I've been busy. Sorry. But we had a blog come through from the medical center director today, and I went and watched it. And we've been getting surveyed like daily about the vaccine. So what I did not know, and I sent you the link. I don't know if you're going to be able to watch it or not, but I sent you the blog link and the information. The vaccine is actually done in two doses.
Yeah.
So they're 21 days apart, right. And you're not, once you get the first shot, you're not covered until after, I think he said 7 to 10 days after the second shot. So he said there's like a good 4 or 5 weeks in there where you're still susceptible to COVID while you're between the two shots.
That's right. And so if we have, if we had 40 million doses, that's enough for 20 million people because each.
Exactly.
Okay. And so I want people to understand that. And, you know, also the chairman of Pfizer said he isn't completely sure that once you're once you got both shots, he's still not sure if you can or cannot transmit COVID to somebody else.
Yeah, exactly. The other concern is the storage. I know there's been a lot to do about the special handling, the storage. The reason why we're getting surveyed to death at the medical center is because once they open the vial, they have to use it all because of storage issues. You can't just like put it in the refrigerator and use it later.
No,
you have to use it all.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
so
right.
There's a lot of cost involved here and a lot of stuff that's going to happen. Don't expect to get your jab and be going about your merry way and be back to normal.
Well, that's why we need a bridge, of money. That's where we are. That's what we need. And Mitch McConnell is an impediment to living on this planet because he's got his so screw you is basically the whole Republican idea. Pull yourself up from your bootstraps. Well, what if you have no feet? What if you have no boots? And by the way, have you ever tried to pull yourself up from your bootstraps? It can't be done. It just can't be done. I don't even know where that came from. And I'm sure somebody does in this audience, and they will tell me. I once said I never understood look a gift horse in the mouth. And, of course, they sent me the old English, story of the gift horse. I don't. You know what? You can't pull yourself up from your bootstraps. That's just a fact. And if you can't breathe, you really can't. All right, so tomorrow, I just want you to know, they're having a super spreader rally. They're going to be in Valdosta, Georgia. Okay, Biden and Obama are also supposed to be going to Georgia tomorrow because our future, literally, will be impeded by Mitch McConnell's Republican Senate unless we can get the 2 seats that we need, the Ossoff seat and the Warnock seat. Unless we can get those 2 seats, we are going to stay in a humanitarian crisis. We are going to watch the police get laid off. We're going to watch the firefighters get laid off, the EMTs get laid off. We're going to watch the sanitation workers be laid off, teachers, etc., because they don't care about us. They'll throw paper towels at you. And that is why these 2 seats in freaking Georgia matter so much. It determines the majority in the Senate. And so everybody's going to Georgia tomorrow. Now, on Sunday night at 7 o'clock, there's a debate between the richest woman in the Senate, Kelly Loeffler, who nobody ever voted for, ever, not once, not ever, for dog catcher, let alone senator. She was appointed by the man that they want beheaded, basically, Brian Kemp. She was appointed by him to take Johnny Isakson's seat, right? And so now she needs to run. She's running against the pastor, Raphael Warnock, from the Ebenezer Baptist Church, Martin Luther King's church, and she's calling him a Marxist and a spy and a communist, just like they did to MLK. That's her whole campaign. So Sunday night, they'll meet for a debate. It will be aired on CNN. It's early. It'll be at 7 o'clock on Sunday night. Ossoff cannot debate David Perdue because David Perdue will not show up for a debate because he's a chicken. Perdue chicken. Have a good weekend.